Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, viewers. Once again, I'm Innocent, I'm Twele, and we are still on the topic of vegetation of Africa. Last time we were talking about the tropical rainforests, whereby we talked about how they are thick, how they are found along the equator, and so on. Now today's topic is starting from the tree species in equatorial rainforests we talked about last time. Remember, we said that the equatorial rainforests are an example of natural forests. Those forests that grow by themselves, meaning that there are different tree species in those forests. That's why you see we have examples, the tree species in the equatorial rainforests. We have the mahogany, we have the muvule, we have the ebony, we have the African walnut, we have the mosses, the rosewood, and others, as we said that there are very many tree species. Such trees, we refer to them as hardwood trees. In P5 and P6 we talked about them. Why do we call them hardwood trees? Because we get hardwood timber from them. So the tree species in equatorial rainforests are very many. Why are they many? It is because the equatorial rainforests are natural forests. In growing, nobody determines which species to grow. They grow at their own will. So these rainforests we are talking about are important to people. They are important to the government. How are they important? One of them, we say, they are source of timber. We have the lumberjacks who go to the equatorial rainforests and cut timber. In fact, lumbering is one of the major activities in DRC. Why? DRC has very many equatorial rainforests and they have hardwood trees. Two, they are source of food. Most people, they go to forests to get fruits. Such fruits, people feed on them. We have some tribes, the pygmies in the equatorial rainforests of DRC, they gather. Remember, long ago before farming started, early man lived by gathering. They would gather fruits, they would gather honey, and so on. So such fruits were being gathered from the equatorial rainforests. Next importance is that they are a source of wood fuel. In wood fuel specifically, even in Uganda here, we use charcoal, which we get from the forests. We use firewood, we cut trees and dry them to get firewood, and that is what we refer to as wood fuel. Even though the government doesn't encourage it these days, that's why it is doing this rural electrification, the extension of electricity in villages, such that people can stop cutting trees for wood. Instead, they use electricity for their human activities. Next point is that they help in rain formation. When we talk about rain formation, we all learn about the rain cycle in P5, in P4, in P3. Only that most of the children, they have a habit of writing they help in the formation of rainfall. No, what is formed is not rainfall, but rain. There is a difference between rain and rainfall. Rain refers to the water drops from the atmosphere, and those are the ones that are formed, if you remember very well, the condensation that takes place in clouds. So then rainfall, the amount of rainwater. So what is formed is rain. Thank you. Next point is that they attract tourists who bring foreign exchange. Foreign exchange, this is the income a country gets from people who come from abroad to come and see our forests. Not all these forests are found in all parts of the world. People move from everywhere in the world to come to Africa to see these equatorial rainforests, and they have to pay before they visit such places. So all these are the equatorial rainforests. These were the importances. We have looked at the tree species found there and where they are located. So that was all about the other type of natural forest, which we said it is the equatorial rainforest. Now at this time, we are going to another vegetation zone, and this is number 2, which is the savanna vegetation. This savanna vegetation is divided into two, that is the grassland and the woodland. Why are they divided? Some areas have the savanna grassland and other areas have the savanna woodland, as we are going to talk about them later. But what do we need to know is that this savanna grassland is the commonest in most parts, not in all, but most parts of Africa have the savanna vegetation. So if you are asked to name the common type of vegetation in Africa, at least most parts of Africa have the savanna vegetation. So that's why I've said savanna vegetation is also known as tropical vegetation. So if you are asked about tropical vegetation, the savanna vegetation, they are the same. Savanna vegetation covers the largest part of Africa. Savanna vegetation covers the largest part of Africa. I talked about it earlier. Most parts of Africa, they have the savanna vegetation. Do you remember the reason? It comes from the other side of climate, whereby I told you that it is the climate of an area that determines the vegetation that grows in that very area. I told you that the common type of climate in Africa is tropical climate. That's where we get the name tropical vegetation. So having tropical climate in most parts of Africa, that is the reason as to why we have savanna vegetation in most parts of Africa. So the common type of vegetation is savanna grassland. The common type of climate, the other side where we are, it is the tropical vegetation. So that is what we are talking about, the savanna vegetation. So we have the types of savanna vegetation as I talked about it earlier, that we have the grassland savanna, which we call the savanna grassland. Then we have the woodland savanna, which we call savanna woodland. Savanna grassland is referred to as the wet savanna. Why? The reason as to why it is called the wet savanna, it is because it is found in areas that are wet. Wet areas receive rainfall. Unlike the woodland savanna is known as the dry savanna. Why? It is found in the semi-arid areas. In P6, we learned about the Miombo woodland of Tanzania, and we said that area is not good for human settlement. Why is it not good for human settlement? It is because the place is arid, it is somehow dry, so some human activities like crop growing cannot take place. Secondly, it is infested with pesticides. The woodlands of Miombo, they have the pesticides which are dangerous to both the animals and human beings. So majorly, what do we need to know about these two? The grassland is a wet savanna. Why? It is found in wet areas, where the wet areas receive rainfall. Then the dry savanna is found in the semi-arid areas where there is little rainfall. But all they are referred to as the savanna vegetation. Then secondly, we talked about the savanna vegetation, whereby we said we have the woodland savanna and the grassland savanna, but majorly the savanna vegetation. We said savanna vegetation is also known as the tropical vegetation, and this is the one. Remember, we said the savanna vegetation is found in most parts of Africa. So starting from here, the whole of this, it has the savanna vegetation. Why? Because this area has the tropical climate. So the savanna vegetation is found in the tropical climate. And the type of climate common in most parts of Africa, it is the tropical climate, as well as the savanna grasslands, they are the common in most parts of Africa. What are the characteristics of savanna vegetation? If you remember very well, I told you characteristics means what can help you to identify something. How can you know that this is a hen? It is a hen because of the features on it. So what are the features of the savanna vegetation? If you are moving, you are with your parents, you are with your relative, maybe you are in a tour and you reach in an area, how can you know that we have reached in an area which has Equatorial rainforests? How can you know that we have reached in an area where there are the savanna grasslands? An example, if you are moving to Jinja, along Jinja Road, and you reach Madara Forest, and you see how you cannot see through that forest, you automatically know exactly these are the rainforests we are talking about. But when you reach Queen Elizabeth and you see open space with the short grass and scattered trees, automatically you will have known that you have reached in an area with the savanna grassland. So what are the characteristics of savanna vegetation. One, savanna vegetation has short grass and scattered trees, grow tall like the other area of the equatorial rainforests. And scattered trees, meaning the trees are not so close like the other side of equatorial rainforests. So the trees, the grass is short and the trees are spaced. That's why you find that human activities like cattle keeping, they are easily practiced in that area because of the short grass, which acts as pasture for the animals. And even in P5 and P6, we learned that most game parks are found in areas with savanna grassland. And we said the reason there is a complete food chain. The complete food chain is not that even lions eat grass, no. Lions feed on the animals that eat grass. Remember, the herbivores and the carnivores. So the Uganda cobs, which feed on the grass in the savanna grassland, the lions feed on the Uganda cobs, and they are all found in areas with savanna grassland. So we have said there is short grass and scattered trees. Two, trees shed off leaves during the dry season. Reason I told you that in the equatorial rainforest, they have broad leaves, because even if transpiration takes place, there is no effect since rainfall is received throughout the year. But here in savanna grassland, the trees shed off leaves during the dry season to reduce transpiration. Even in newer villages, you have some trees during the dry, even newer compounds during the dry season, you see all leaves down so that they can reduce the loss of water. Then they have small leaves, as we are going to look at, trees that grow in the woodland and the savanna grassland. So the trees that grow in the woodland savanna include acacia. I think acacia is common in our areas here. As we have said that the trees have small leaves, this acacia has tiny leaves. The reason is also to reduce the rate of transpiration. We have other tree species like the cactus, the baobabs, we have the oaks. All these are common in areas with woodland savanna. Here they may not be common because the common one here is the savanna grassland. But when you go to areas where there is the woodland savanna, you will specifically look at them and identify them. So then we go to countries in Africa with the savanna grassland. These are very few. There are very many countries in Africa with the savanna grassland. Why? We said it is the common in most parts of Africa. Therefore, even though we have mentioned only 6, but there are very many countries in Africa. Wherever we are going to look at the map and we see where the tropical climate is found and the tropical vegetation, you'll find that there are very many countries found in those regions. But these ones are just examples, and they are Uganda, our neighbors Kenya, we have Botswana. When we are looking at the location of Africa, we found Botswana in southern Africa. We found Burkina Faso, this one is in West Africa. We have Zimbabwe, it is also found in southern Africa. We have Ghana, it's in West Africa. Even by these countries, you can specifically see that the savanna grasslands are found in most parts of Africa. Because if you can come from West Africa, you go to East Africa where Uganda is, then you go to Zimbabwe, southern Africa, you see that this grassland is common. And there are other countries who have not put that. That's why I put ETC, but there are very many. Then countries in Africa with the woodland savanna. These are not as many as these ones, but they are also there. Tanzania, we talked about the Miombo woodland, which we learned in P6. It is found in Tanzania. We have the woodland savanna of Malawi. We have the woodland savanna in Mali. We have the woodland savanna in Zambia. We said that the difference between this savanna woodland and the savanna grassland, the grassland is found in areas with rainfall. Then the woodland is in areas where the rainfall has at least a bit reduced, the semi-arid areas. So that's what differentiates them. Both they are part of the savanna vegetation. But what brings the difference is that the other side of the woodland, we have the trees, the woodland savanna. Then the other side of the savanna grassland, we have the grassland savanna. So that's why you have this example. The woodland of Tanzania and Zambia is known as the Miombo woodland. We have the Miombo woodland in central Tanzania, which we said in P6 that it is infested with flies, and the major activity carried out there is beekeeping. Cattle keeping doesn't do well in the Miombo woodland Why? Because they are sassaflies. So we have the activities carried out in the Savanna grassland. We have tourism learned about it. This is where tourists move to different places for either study or pleasure. Even us, sometimes of the year we move to different places just for study. But there are others who move to those areas just for pleasure and can take place in the Savanna grassland. Remember, we said that most game parks are found in the Savanna grassland. I think you remember the reason. We said the reason why most game parks are found in the Savanna grassland. We specifically said there is a complete food chain for animals. We have said this complete food chain, I explained about it earlier. Tourism, of course, people come to see both grass-eating animals and fresh-eating animals. But there is a complete food chain because the herbivores, when they eat grass, then the carnivores feed on the grass-eating animals. So that's why I gave an example of a lion and the Uganda kobe. And the Uganda kobe eats grass. The lion eats the Uganda kobe, which fed on grass. Then there is cattle keeping. Remember we said that the Savanna grasslands have short grass and scattered trees, meaning that cattle keeping can easily take place. One of the reasons, the grass which is short, it can be easily eaten by the cattle and other animals. Then another reason, there are few disease vectors, unlike in the woodland savanna where we say they are sassaflies. But here, there are no sassaflies because there is no woodland and the grass is short with scattered trees. There is crop growing, there are some crops which do well in areas with at least reduced rainfall. The rainfall received in the Equatorial rainforest is not the same as the one received in areas with the Savanna grassland, but the one there can also favor the growing of crops. Therefore, those are human activities in the Savanna grassland. So, as I conclude, majorly we are still looking at vegetation zones in Africa. So, different vegetation zones, as we said, that vegetation is determined by the climate of an area. So, the climate determines the vegetation that grows there. And we find that human activities are there majorly because of vegetation and because of the climate experienced in that very area. Thank you very much. We meet next lesson.